Hello, hello, hello. I want to officially welcome you aboard our stream today. We have so much fun stuff to go ahead and get into. Not quite as many stories as we had yesterday on deck for today, but we still have just so much exciting comic books to preview across the Marvel Universe. Look, I am really excited about the current Scarlet Witch character over at Marvel Comics. I think her last series, as well as the preview for the Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch series coming from Marvel, was so enjoyable. I am so happy that that same creative team, really kind of spearheaded over from Steve Orlando, is set to return over to Marvel's Scarlet Witch ongoing. We're going to be covering that over on our stream. Plus, we're going to be talking a lot about some DC Comics news that we missed the other day, especially as DC Comics has just announced a brand new event series coming in from the fan favorite creative team of Mark Waid. I think that is just going to be absolutely just really massive and just a really good way for DC to expand their comic book line. Sometimes I think fans are a little bit antagonistic towards these really big DC Comics events. So hopefully having Mark Waid kind of spearheading the show will really alleviate some of those fan fears and provide some, interesting new material for DC. I haven't really checked out the premise behind the series, so I'm really interested to dive into that with you today. So it looks like we have 7 stories on tap for today. Much less than usual, but they're all really, really important. We even have a story that looks like it's going to highlight the finale for Marvel Comics Gods series. I remember being on stream when Marvel first announced Gods, and everybody was asking me when the series would end. And I remember just kind of really combing through the article trying to find the date or the last issue of the series. And it seemed like through so much of Marvel's marketing campaign for Gods, it was so hard to find the actual last issue or when that series was set to wind down. So we finally have an answer for that over on our stream today. Plus, we're actually going to be going over some X-Men tie-ins for Blood Hunt that look pretty interesting, that star some solo X-Men characters, which is going to be especially interesting too as we kind of transition from this current era of X-Men with the Krakoa titles over to the From the Ashes reboot really soon over the months of May and June. So just over since our last stream, I did have the distinct pleasure of catching up on some DC comics. I particularly read through the second and third issues of DC Comics Power Girl series coming in from Leah Williams and Eduardo Pensica. I think that series has just done a phenomenal job characterizing Power Girl with her brand new psychic powers and just some interesting contexts. I still can't recommend that comic book series enough, and I just really like how personal the writing has gotten with Paige ever since the Power Girl special, as well as some of the other characterizations just across Lazarus Planet. I'm going to keep trying to catch up on some of these DC comics that I fell behind on. I'm really looking at catching up on the main Green Lantern title coming up next from the publisher. Elsewhere, just one thing I wanted to briefly mention was I really wanted to check out House of X because we've read through so many of these X-Men Monday articles where they've really talked about and previewed some of these preview pages, and I also wanted to compare House of X against some of Jonathan Hickman's other projects. And I was really happy to say that when I read through the first issue yesterday, there is so much going on in that series, and it's still just a fantastic title. If anybody really wants to check out where Krakoa started, House of X Powers of 10 is still just a phenomenal read through here. All right, well, I want to go ahead and welcome you on board our stream for today. We have 7 news stories that we're going to get into. I think each of them are really, really important. I don't think any of our stream today is filler here. We're really going to be focusing in on DC Comics for today. So DC Comics just finished the Beast World event, and we are really going to be looking to the future of what the House of Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman has in store. Frankly, I think the Absolute Power event should be pretty interesting here. I think the publisher has a really solid creative team that, as we mentioned towards the top of our stream, is really beloved by fans. Elsewhere, just as we mentioned earlier too, we're going to be talking a little bit about Gods, Blood Hunt, X-Men, Scarlet Witch, and in our very, very last story for the stream today, we're also going to be talking about the Titans book. I really do think the Titans book is like such an underappreciated and fantastic title at DC Comics. And I am just really interested to hear where that book is going after that Beast World event. A Pilgrim, I read The Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver last night, so I'm ready for this broadcast. Perfect. I am so glad to hear that. We're going to be talking about that in our like second to last news story as we begin to transition into some of these Marvel books here. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into our first story. This one is really interesting for me because it kind of breaks up, my daily, weekly release schedule here. Let's get right into this brand new schedule change coming in from DC Comics. It looks like, according to Adventures in Poor Taste and David Brooke, that DC Comics is moving back to Wednesdays for their shipping schedule. It was so funny. Before I started doing the channel in earnest, I thought that DC Comics actually came out on Wednesdays. But after, producing some of these videos, I realized, nope, nope. DC at one point moved just one day back and began to release things on Tuesday as Marvel released their comics over on Wednesday. And now it looks like both publishers are kind of going back to simpatico for that same schedule. Both Marvel and DC are set to release their books on Wednesdays. I started to try and like figure out what exactly this means for me as a comic book reader. And then I started putting together, what it was like before doing the channel. And I just remember like going to the comic book shop on Wednesday and just getting just that pure like shotgun blast of not only Marvel but DC Comics like at the very same time. So I'm actually thinking that this could potentially be a good thing. Just to see so many brand new books on the shelf for one particular day really, I think, drives up my interest and just makes me so invested in comic books. But I want to hear what DC Comics has to say about this change in their release schedule and going back to the legendary Wednesday date for, superhero comics readers. DC Comics has revealed that the Comics Pro presentation, they're moving back to Wednesdays. The shift will begin this July. DC Comics explained the original move was due to supply chain disruption in 2020. Collections and graphic novels will continue to ship on Tuesdays. Okay, there you go. So it looks like DC taking over the Tuesdays is a pretty new thing and started over in 2020. So it looks like maybe the supply chain for comics is a little bit more stable than it was back during, supply chain issues over in 2020. And now we are set to go back on Wednesday, aside from DC's collections and graphic novels. In addition to DC's Comics Pro presentation full of great news about upcoming DC publishing initiatives, DC also revealed plans to return to a Wednesday release schedule for new periodicals beginning in July. Responding to feedback from retailers and readers, DC is returning to the traditional Wednesday on sale timing, with new collected editions and graphic novels continuing to release on Tuesdays. As a result of supply chain disruption in 2020, the publisher pivoted to a Tuesday release schedule for new periodicals. This summer, DC will realign with the industry standard of Wednesday releases and the new comic book day that fans can look forward to each week. Maybe the only other motivation I can see from this outside of, exactly what DC is stating here, that the supply chain has been repaired and that they're also looking to move back to the industry standard. But I wonder if this was also done to maybe try and circumvent some of the leaks that are coming through across the comic book industry. Leaks are just going to happen here. And I think with these books floating around a little bit earlier in advance, it's a little bit more dangerous for the publisher. That being said, though, I still think it's cool for DC to head back to Wednesdays. I'm not sure, how much of a shift this is going to have over on the industry, but it's at least going to make, Marvel and DC's publishing schedule align a little bit more closely here. Okay, so that was our first story. Let's go ahead and head into, I would say, one of our biggest DC comic book news stories here of the stream. It's always a big deal when we see a brand new comic book event for the very first time. It always makes me incredibly excited, and we are finally at that period again where DC is set to unveil their brand new event. Let's go ahead and check it out right now. This came out just 3 days ago from David Brooke over on adventuresinpoortaste.com. DC details Absolute Power Summer Event DC Finest, and more. So it looks like a lot of these revelations came out of that Comics Pro seminar, including that shift from DC heading back to the industry standard of Wednesdays. Of course, this was reported by the Phenomenal Adventures in Poor Taste from David Brooke. DC Comics has announced a new publishing initiative at the Comics Pro Comic Industry Conference this week, leading to a new line of graphic collections. We also have word on the Elseworlds imprint in their new summer event called Absolute Power. Okay, so we finally have some revelations here about Absolute Power. It looks like this is a 4-issue series launching on July 2nd, written by Mark Waid, featuring art from Dan Mora. So man, Mark Waid and Dan Mora have worked on so many projects together over at DC Comics lately, whether it be Shazam or just several other series. Frankly, as we mentioned towards the top of the stream, I feel like so many DC Comics announcements are met with this level of animosity, and I really do think this is in part to just how frequently DC publishes, these really large stories that readers have a hard time keeping up with and, spending their money each and every month. However, if the publishers decided that they absolutely have to have an event storyline, at least we have a solid creative team with Waid and Mora here. Also, this storyline isn't too long. It looks like it's only 4 issues. One thing to note about this storyline, at least for me, is that it does have some connective tissue with the Brainiac storyline. We also just got through the Beast World story from DC Comics. It feels like some of these plot elements are just so closely connected that we're almost reading the same storyline in certain instances. However, I do think ever since DC went ahead and switched over to Dawn of DC, there's just been really a level of cohesion across their publishing that has continued across each story. So I'm still more than willing to go along for the ride, even if so many of these elements do seem similar. Okay, so it looks like this series launches July 2nd, and the premise involves Amanda Waller using the strategic and military might of Failsafe and the otherworldly technology of the Brainiac Queen to steal all metahuman abilities from every superhero and supervillain around the globe. A threat so dire it will take the combined efforts of Batman, Superman, Wonder Woman, and the superheroes of the DC Universe to defeat it. Fans can get an early jump on the excitement and intrigue of Absolute Power on Free Comic Book Day, May 4th. The event will kick off with Absolute Power Ground Zero, the official prelude debuting in June. This one-shot comic book will bridge the shocking conclusion of the Superman story House of Brainiac with Amanda Waller's machinations in Absolute Power, all helmed by Mark Waid, the event's architect. Okay, I'm actually really happy to see in this article that we have plot threads from House of Brainiac that are directly connected to Absolute Power. I really think that these stories are just so similar to each other that if those connective pieces weren't there, it would probably feel like you're reading like a super redundant comic book. So hopefully this Absolute Power storyline is just the continuation of what some of DC's creators are doing with the House of Brainiac storyline. Another thing I think to note about this Absolute Power event is it does seem that some of these characters are really redundant. I'm really comparing this over to what's going on with DC's Night Terror storyline that published recently. We really got to see characters like Batman team up with heroes like Deadman across that storyline. So I really wish that DC would use this event to spotlight a more obscure hero in the DC universe aside from somebody like Amanda Waller. But once again, though, I'm still happy to see the level of cohesion across the publishing line. Also happy to see, too, that the Absolute Power event is debuting as part of Free Comic Book Day. I feel like I feel like right now there's actually quite a few things to be excited about in terms of Free Comic Book Day as we get our first preview of Blood Hunt, as well as that X-Men tie-in storyline, and then now we have this Absolute Power, this brand new DC Comics event to read as well. Okay, so here is another cover coming in from Dan Mora, really highlighting Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman. We also have a tease at Brainiac as well as Amanda Waller. So really great cover, really solid composition here But once again, I don't think these are some of the most interesting characters across the DC universe. Leonard McFarlane. I didn't know DC came out on Tuesday. I get all my comics on Tuesday. Yes, DC Comics, it looks like since 2020 has been releasing their comic books over on Tuesday, and then Marvel jumps in, publishes their new comic books a day later over on Wednesday. But it looks like starting in July, DC and Marvel will both release over on Wednesdays. Okay, so we have some pretty cool interior art coming in over from Dan Mora for Absolute Power. Really think Dan Mora is really fantastic at storytelling. Always love seeing some of his interiors too. I can't imagine the full issue would be with just this kind of black, white, and red colors. But man, the red from Superman's cape juxtaposed with the black and white inking in the background is really gorgeous here. Kay says, yeah, I wish they'd use different characters from the normal three, especially because there's so many interesting comic book characters over at DC right now. Like one character I am really looking to see DC utilize in some of these big event storylines is Levi Kamei, one of the newer Swamp Thing characters. He recently joined like the Titans team, but man, I would love to see like his premise really get bolstered in a big upcoming DC event. Man, I'd love to see like Gold Beetle from like the Flash, come in some kind of crazy like timey-wimey DC event. Yeah, you're totally right, Kate. DC has so many characters. There is no excuse to have Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman serving as your anchor characters for another event. Give us Batman, Superman, and somebody out of left field like Trinity. Okay, so it looks like Superman gets shot. This is a really edgy plot point, characterized and illustrated in just a really, really melodramatic way here on the page with the red hues from Superman. Still drawn incredibly well. We still have just a wonderful sense of perspective over on this page too, but definitely melodramatic. DC also announced DC Finest, a new line of comprehensive collections of the most in-demand periods, genres, and characters from across DC history. Scheduled to launch in November, these affordably priced, large-size paperback collections start at $34.99. I mean, I'm glad that they're trying to make these more affordable, but I still feel like $34.99 for one collection is just such a big ask. I really love Marvel's Essential line of comics because they have so many books in them. However, those books are also all in black and white here. So really cool that they're publishing like more affordable collections. Let's see here. Fans in attendance also got a first look at the DC versus Marvel crossover omnibuses, including 2 exclusive direct market covers by Jim Lee, Scott Williams, Alex Sinclair for DC vs. Marvel Omnibus and DC/Marvel The Amalgam Age Omnibus. I don't think I've read any of this DC Marvel crossover material aside from the Walt Simonson, like Teen Titans, X-Men stuff. So frankly, I think it's super cool that this is back in print. I really think that there is like a surprisingly large audience that these like amalgam and like Marvel DC stories tend to attract, and like any expansion of any expansion of comics that can pull in any sect of readers, I think really is a good thing. So good on Marvel and DC for finally publishing some of these crossover comics that fans are really looking forward to. So elsewhere in terms of this DC Comics event, I don't think I can say I'm like really, really excited about it. I am curious to see like what Mark Waid is bringing to the page. One thing to note lately is I do think that some of Mark Waid's comics have followed this melodramatic path, especially in that Batman versus Robin storyline that DC published very, very recently. This is something that I've really been looking at Mark Waid comics for, and just I was hoping he kind of went in a different direction after publishing the Shazam book, but I see him following up on some of those same impulses here. I have liked a lot of the main narrative within Dawn of DC. I really loved Lazarus Planet. I think that was one of my very favorite modern DC events of the past maybe 2 or 3 years. I hope that this one has maybe some of those same plot threads and is still able to implement some of those elements from Beast World too, as we have characters like Amanda Waller featured in this series. I also hope we see Peacemaker. I know Amanda Waller has been working so closely with Peacemaker across several DC comic books. I feel like their relationship still has some additional commentary and things to say about it at large here. So can't say I'm super excited about Absolute Power, but at least we have a solid creative team on DC Comics' next big event here. Okay, so that was our second story. Now we're going to head over to Marvel Comics for our third storyline. This one is actually pretty sizable here. We're going to be covering a Jonathan Hickman comic book that at this point is getting a little bit obscure. This is Marvel Comics' God storyline written by Jonathan Hickman, illustrated by the excellent Valerio Schiti. So it looks like Marvel Comics' God series is actually ending at issue 8. This storyline was actually revealed in Marvel Solicits, published just a few days ago, and we have this news story coming in from David Brook over from Adventures in Poor Taste. Marvel teases Gods' ending for now. To all things, an ending for now. Marvel Comics has been putting a clinic as far as world building and incredible art with Gods, but it's listed as an 8-issue series and will likely come to an end. Then again, the new teaser released today seemed to suggest it's only the end for now. As I put it in my review, it's a shame Gods is listed only as having 8 issues, because self-contained stories like this one prove Hickman and Schiti have a great concept on their hands that could flourish with 100 issues or more. The concept of roaming wizards and science experts uncovering dark truths that lay behind the facade of reality is excellent, is revealed in this issue. So yeah, there were so many sites that published this article, but I don't think any of them had that insight that David Brook had from Adventures in Poor Taste, which is why I pulled his specifically here. Now, I think there's just been so much text and narration in Gods that has really held readers at arm's length, and I'm honestly not surprised to hear that this series is winding down so soon with the 8th issue. As this really teaser kind of posts, and as we read through in some of the article here, this isn't the official ending for Gods. This series could always come back. But I'm just not sure if at the end of the day, Gods was really able to connect with readers in a big way here. So really wondering what the future looks like for this series. Frankly, I don't think the execution of Gods was worthy of some of the big and bombastic hype we put on this series. I do think there's an incredible level of world building as we discovered through that Marvel article, and I think there's something to what David Brook is saying. I mean, this is a really epic series. There are so many disparate plot threads. When you look at some of the locations in the history, it's almost like, like a Souls game or like Elden Ring, with just how big and bombastic the lore in the series is. So, I wouldn't necessarily be opposed to Gods coming back as a full comic book title. I just think, like, in whatever future Gods has, it needs to be manifested with less text, and it needs to be edited really, really carefully. I think this should be a warning sign also to Marvel's editorial and how they really kind of edit and just craft Jonathan Hickman stories. I want to go ahead and read some chat and get anybody else's perspective except for mine. AfroSF says, "Greetings, Arakko Brannock. Personally, I think Marvel shot themselves in the foot for the high cover price for issue 1. It was too expensive for a first issue, and there was too much dialogue." AfroSF, I could not agree with you more. I think, returning to some of those same scenes and text pieces just did not justify the price, and really only served to make readers more and more angry as time went on here. Hopefully if Marvel does a new launch of Gods, they won't go, any higher than $4.99, just due to how angry readers are with some of the representations and, some of the price points with how these issues came out here. Kay says Marvel doesn't like to risk it nowadays. Well, it's like you came out with this big risk with this God's book with Jonathan Hickman. I understand that you wanted to take a big gamble over on Hickman, but just giving this to a reader off the street with the amount of text that's on the page here is such a tall order. I just don't know why you would think this would connect with readers. It would only connect with people who are just so devoted to following the ins and outs of every single piece of source material. I feel like this kind of thing is so common in video games, maybe not as common in comics, depending on like what publishers you're reading. Okay, A Pilgrim, I think Gods didn't feel like a Marvel title. I can see how it would get pruned first, but maybe it will be back when more money is available in the budget for new projects at Marvel. I'm not even opposed to Marvel continuing to publish these characters. I think like Win, like Dimitri the Science Boy, Aiko Maki, Mia the Magic Girl. I think a lot of these characters are super interesting. I'd love to see them spin into their own stories. If Jonathan Hickman came out with some one shots for these characters, I would definitely check them out too. Maybe colliding some elements of Gods with the Ultimate Marvel would be really cool. Maybe making like a stronger relationship between like Win and the new Peter Parker of the Ultimate Spider-Man book could give me that like science fiction stuff I'm looking for. I feel like there is so much that Hickman could do with Gods. Also, if you check out so many of Jonathan Hickman's comic books, they reference that bridge from Fantastic Four. Jonathan Hickman is always the kind of writer who builds a meta narrative stretched out between comics. So I feel like no matter what happens, we're probably going to get some elements of Gods in other comic books. Hopefully, it'll make some of Jonathan Hickman's future comic books even better. But man, I really don't think we've seen the last of these characters. And I don't think these characters are even bad necessarily. All right, so it looks like Gods is winding down in May. I feel like the months of May and June are just so epic, filled with so many important comic books from the publisher, too. All right, well, that was our preview over of Gods. That was the third new storyline that we're going to touch on today. Nobody except me. Has Gods been a bust? I think so. I think the hype that we had for the property and for the comic book absolutely did not match the execution. Thankfully, though, other things that we've hyped up, like the X-Men, have really come through. So, it's just interesting to see where projects go at the end of the day. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about our next news story. I think this one is going to be super, super interesting. I don't know if you've noticed, but there's been an insane amount of Marvel Comics Blood Hunt tie-ins that we've covered on our stream. Not only the last couple days, but over in the last couple weeks as well. Newsarama actually published this really cool news article explaining the full scope of what Marvel Comics is asking readers to invest in if you were to purchase each and every issue of Blood Hunt. It looks like there's going to be a whopping 59 issues. Let's go ahead and get into this news article published by George Marston 5 days ago on Newsarama. Marvel wants you to take a big bite on a Blood Hunt with a whopping 59 issues, including 8 full series and 6 one-shots. That's well over $200 investment for readers who want to go all in. Marvel Comics is billing this summer's Avengers and Pals vs. Vampires event Blood Hunt as the bloodiest in the publisher's history, even releasing a second polybagged version of the main limited series with more blood and gore. But it may also be one of Marvel's largest events in quite some time, with the publisher teasing more than 20 Blood Hunt tie-ins across limited series, one-shots, and included ongoing series, according to a teaser image that is slowly filled in over the course of Marvel's announcements. That's frankly massive. And at $3.99 on average, that tallies up to a significant investment for readers who want to go all in on the event, potentially as much as $80 or more in a given month. The event runs from May through July, with some tie-ins running 3 to 4 issues and the main event lasting 5. That tallies up to 59 issues, over $200 for those who plan to purchase the entirety of Blood Hunt, or just 54 if you don't want to double dip on the red band version of the Central Limited series. It's also almost twice the size of Gang War, Marvel's other big recent crossover, which will run for around 30 issues, including all of its tie ins. So here's just the absolutely ridiculous, Blood Hunt teaser image, really profiling all the tie-ins across the Blood Hunt line. I think you can really see here that Marvel just has a massive investment with this event, with just so many crossover series. I really do think this is extreme, and Marvel's Blood Hunt should be a lot smaller. I also think this crossover should have more connective tissue to the main Avengers book in the Marvel universe. We're just at this really weird period where, for once, I'm not really invested in Marvel's latest event because of so many disparate reasons, and I just think that the amount of tie ins that the publisher is currently releasing definitely isn't helping them. All right, we have some really interesting comments in chat that I want to catch up with here. Nobody except me says characters are interesting, but story feels lackluster and missing a good hook. Yeah, I totally agree with you. I totally agree with you. I like, Scarlet Witch. I like Blade. I think Bloodline is also going to be featured in this event story. We also have like really cool characters like Union Jack. You know what, frankly, let's talk about some of my favorites, crossovers that they've announced for Blood Hunt so far. So the ones that are really sticking out to me as of today is this Union Jack storyline, especially I think because of the way Afro SF called it out in the last stream. Union Jack is just an interesting character. I remember the Blood Hunters comic book also having like a really interesting cast of characters and creative team, so I am going to be checking that one out. This Dracula comic book series also has Bloodline in it, who's just such an interesting new character in the Marvel Universe, so I'm definitely going to be reading that one. But I think that's about it. Maybe I'll see if any of the connective tissue from the main Amazing Spider-Man series will set up the Blood Hunt tie-in for Spider-Man in an interesting way. But yeah, aside from that, I don't know how excited I am for that. Here, let's check out the ones at the very bottom. Yeah, a lot of these books I'm frankly just reading anyway, and I wouldn't really want to miss an issue of. That includes Amazing Spider-Man. I don't think I've missed an issue of Amazing Spider-Man in like a really, really long time. Avengers 14 to 16. I remember we covered this on a stream, I believe, last weekend. I'm really excited about the new cast for this book. I think Avengers is way too safe and way too comfortable. And, mixing up the cast with characters like Hercules, really good idea. Doctor Strange has been a really solid ongoing at Marvel. Making Steven a vampire could be an interesting way to capitalize on the Doctor Strange property and tell a supernatural story. I am so interested right now in Vengeance of the Moon Knight. I don't even think Blood Hunt could derail some of my intrigue towards that book. Also, just the really close characterization between Tigra and the brand new Moon Knight has really been fascinating in the second issue of Vengeance of the Moon Knight. Venom is just a supernatural science fiction, insane comic book that always pulls me into the narrative. I have no idea how they're going to tie into Blood Hunt, but if anybody can do it, it's none other than Al Ewing. I am really, really excited about this free comic book day issue, but not for the Blood Hunt material, mainly for the X-Men from the Ashes material. Okay, let's go ahead and check in with chat a little bit, and then I'll probably jump into our next story. Frankly, we're going to be talking about even more Blood Hunt tie-ins, but they're going to be about the X-Men, so I'm actually really excited about that. Okay, nobody except me says, I was actually referring to gods, but Blood Hunt story does seem missing setup. Yeah, they both work exactly right, don't they? Remember when Wolverine first had a vampire story after House of X and Powers of 10 that kind of went nowhere? Oh, I actually forgot about that, but that's a really good call out here, nobody except me. Hercules, A Pilgrim. Hercules is both annoying and entertaining. He's always a fun character to add in the mix. I totally agree. I think when your Avengers team is getting a little bit stale, getting a little bit boring, throwing Hercules in there is a lot of fun. A Pilgrim, Blood Hunt, true. Target is my wallet. My wallet is bleeding. Yeah, really good stuff. It seems like a lot of people are agreeing and really have some of that same characterization and like perspective on where Marvel's going with the Blood Hunt story. Okay, give me just one moment here and we will go ahead and queue up our fourth story. As a reminder, we're going to be covering 7 stories today on the stream here. Okay, this one I am really excited about, even though it happens to involve blood hunts. X-Men Blood Hunt one-shots recruit mutant kind for the war against vampires. Marvel's new crossover event Blood Hunt kicks off this May. Let's learn about the X-Men's inclusion now. The Vampires of the Marvel Universe. Oh, when was this published? It looks like this one was published on February 20th. The vampires of the Marvel Universe have waited patiently, and now that the Eternal Night has cursed Earth, they'll feast like never before in Jed MacKay and Pepe Larraz's Blood Hunt. This bloodbath of terror couldn't come at a more dire time for mutant kind. Currently scattered after the fall of Krakoa, the X-Men won't be able to strike out from a united front. Instead, 4 X-Men icons will risk their souls in breathtaking solo adventures. Let's see here, across 4 X-Men Blood Hunt one-shots, see some of mutant kind's most experienced and formidable foes fight back against the ruthless vampire hordes. Former vampire Jubilee, mystical expert Magik, ninja warrior Psylocke, and lethal former assassin Laura Kinney the Wolverine. These standalone stories will deliver thrilling exploits that provide new insights into the vampire's global reign, while also exploring the current circumstances these 4 mutant A-listers will find themselves in the wake of the fall of the House of X. I am so happy to hear everything Marvel is saying in their marketing material about these X-Men one-shots. Frankly, it looks like these one-shots are not only going to touch in on Blood Hunt, but also the current status quo with all the X-Men kind of hiding out after the recent attack from Orcus during the Hellfire Gala. Also, the marketing material directly lists the fact that these X-Men are really trying to survive in the wake of the fall of the House of X story. I think the graphic design over on the logos here is really cool. I'm kind of surprised Marvel decided to use such a great idea for the logo design on just like a tie-in storyline for Blood Hunt too. Okay, so it looks like this X-Men Blood Hunt Jubilee issue is written by Preeti Chibber, featuring art by Enid Balam, and a cover from Erica D'Urso. I feel like I've seen Enid Balam's artwork before, and maybe just 1 or 2 covers by Erica D'Urso, but I am largely unfamiliar with this cast. I absolutely love the cover. I love the logo design. I think the character of Jubilee is super cool. Plus, her tie to the supernatural elements of the Marvel Universe, the fact that she was a vampire, I think really makes this an intriguing comic book from Marvel. Let's check out the solicit. Fangs and fireworks. Running from the past is one race you'll never win, and as darkness suffuses the world, Jubilee's past as a vampire is back to take a big bite out of her. It's going to take more than a couple plasma bursts to get out of this one, Jubilation. Once again, cool to see the fact that Jubilee's like vampire past is referenced over in the solicit. Also, this one is set to come out over on June 12th. I believe this is the same month that the X-Men from the Ashes comic books are coming out. So, man, it's going to be a super crowded month over at Marvel right now for those books. Okay, let's go ahead and check out our next title. This is X-Men Blood Hunt Magik. This one is written by Ashley Allen, featuring art by Jesus Hervas and a cover by Rod Rice. So not familiar with any aspect of the creative team aside from Rod Rice. I like the fact that Marvel is tapping in some newer creators for these tie-ins, and also like in some of the X-Men they're choosing too. I feel like Magik and Jubilee are pretty interesting characters at this stage in the X-Men franchise. Let's check out the solicit for this issue on sale June 26th. Magik raises hell. Illyana Rasputin has returned to her homeland to search her soul and steel for whatever comes next. But how will she return her first home when a vampire army descends on Russia, seeking to turn it into a living hell? She may have been forged in the fires of limbo, but has it prepared her for the blood hunt? Yeah, casting a Magic storyline over in Russia is a really fascinating way to expand on not only Blood Hunt, but some of Illyana Rasputin's origins in the Marvel Universe. Plus, I think Illyana at this point is pretty comfortable with the supernatural, so I think it's going to be really interesting to see how she responds to this vampire threat. Our next chapter is X-Men Blood Hunt Psylocke #1. This one is written by Dark X-Men writer Steve Fox, featuring art by Lin Yoshi, and a cover from Steven Segovia. Ninja vs. Vampires. After serving on the front lines in the war against Orcus, Quanin is very much enjoying deserved downtime with her new lover Grey Crow. But when darkness falls across Japan, Psylocke will wield her psionic blade across blood-sucking creatures of legend and faces a foe unlike any she's ever seen. An all-new villain emerges in the mayhem of Blood Hunts. So this one really seems connected to the core X-Men universe, especially as we have the character of Grey Crow referenced in the solicit here too. I think it's super interesting that this one takes place over in Japan and also features kind of battle-worn Quanin over from the fight against Orcus as well. Very excited to see Steve Fox getting a chance to write Quanin in the Marvel Universe. I'm really excited about this one, on sale not in June, but looks like in July 3rd. Really solid cover here from Steven Segovia as well. Okay, let's check out this one. It looks like this is our final X-Men Blood Hunt tie-in. This is X-Men Blood Hunt Laura Kinney, the Wolverine #1. That's a really weird title from Marvel. I wish Marvel could have found some different naming convention from that book. Okay, X-Men Blood Hunt Laura Kinney, the Wolverine 1, written by Stephanie Phillips, featuring art by Robert Gill and a cover by Jorn Behrens. I have really loved some of the material I've seen from Jorn Behrens in the past, but I think this cover just features such a strange perspective and just kind of curves Laura's head in this really weird way that's kind of unappealing. Robert Gill, I'm also not the biggest fan of. I feel like some of Robert Gill's art is so loose and kind of holds back some of the scripting in X-Force in certain moments. I do like Stephanie Phillips as a writer. Let's go ahead and check out the solicit on this Laura Kinney issue on sale July 17th. Laura's bloodiest rescue mission yet. The vampires will stop at nothing in their bid for supremacy, including capturing mutants for hellacious experiments to boost their own power. But not on Laura Kinney's watch. The Wolverine slices a swath through the vamps when she encounters the truth behind their machinations. Will an unlikely ally prove to be more than she bargained for? Okay, so not a ton to say about this individual issue either. The vast majority of these comic books I am excited about. I think it's cool that Marvel has taken the opportunity to flesh out the X-Men with these Blood Hunt tie-in issues. I think catching up with the individual X-Men as they transition into the From the Ashes storyline is really interesting, especially when we have such important female X-Men like Quanin and Magik, as well as Laura Kinney. Also, checking out this Jubilee storyline should be really cool too, especially given Jubilee's vampiric ties to the Marvel Universe as well. Okay, let's go ahead and get into the news article you've been waiting for all stream long here. This is the 6th story of our 7 stories on deck for today. And let's see. Let's see if I can pull this one up here. Okay, this is Wanda Maximoff, the Scarlet Witch's brand new ongoing series. This is really exciting because Wanda has had just so many other comic books, and she finally now has like an ongoing place to call home after her comic book with her brother Quicksilver winds down very soon. I've really liked Steve Orlando, Sarah Pichelli, and Lorenzo Tometta's comic book, where Wanda was introduced alongside her magic shop known as the Emporium, where she worked with Marvel Cinematic Universe character Darcy Lewis, who joined the comic books. And together, they've really operated out of the Emporium, helping anybody who's come out of the last door. Towards the end of that series, Wanda actually ended up running into Joseph, a clone of Magneto. She's gotten through so many interesting like story status quos. She continues to meet characters from her past like Polaris and Quicksilver, and she was recently in the pages of the Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver comic book given a message directly from her father, who is also resurrected in the Resurrection of Magneto comic books. There are so many like disparate plot threads spinning in the Marvel universe, some of them related to X-Men characters, some of them not. Let's go ahead and see what elements Marvel focuses on in their brand new launch for Wanda Maximoff's Scarlet Witch ongoing series. This one was published February 20th on Marvel.com. Scarlet Witch returns as Steve Orlando reignites his run. Wanda Maximoff's new ongoing solo series arrives in June. This summer, walk through the last door once again, following the current anniversary limited series of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver. Steve Orlando's acclaimed Scarlet Witch series is back and more spellbinding than ever. Joining Orlando for this explosive new chapter in Scarlet Witch's history will be artist Jacopo Camagni, known for depicting awe-inspiring mutant feats in X-Men Red. I've really liked some of Jacopo Camagni's work in the past on X-Men Red. Really great to have just such a fantastic and like battle-worn creator headed on board the Scarlet Witch ongoing. So happy once again here to see Steve Orlando back on a Scarlet Witch comic. He spent so much time with this character, and I feel like probably has a lot to say about Wanda's new status quo. One of Marvel's biggest superstars, Wanda's new headlining series will give her devoted fan base all the chaos magic they can handle, further developing the exciting status quo introduced in her previous run. Scarlet Witch's role as hero to the helpless continues, but magic has consequences. Behold everything that makes Scarlet Witch the most feared sorceress in the Marvel Universe as she defends her new calling from mystical threats, new and old. The Scarlet Witch has carved out a haven for herself in upstate New York, but it's all about to go out in flames. Wanda's newfound peace has drawn the wrath of a primal force unlike any she's ever faced before, and it won't stop until it razes Wanda's world to the ground. It's a clash of titans as Wanda and her allies fight for all she holds dear. What happens when an unstoppable force meets the end of all things? When pure chaos meets pure destruction, Wanda's about to find out if she survives long enough. The news is out and I couldn't be more excited. Author Steve Orlando shared, Scarlet Witch has been a dream job, and getting to return to her once again and continues Wanda adventures is something I could never say no to. Wanda's going to keep climbing. Here, we'll be bringing the blockbuster storytelling of Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver to the focused, personal journey Wanda had in both Darkhold and the previous Scarlet Witch series. Standing in her way, only one of Marvel's most powerful and climactic entities bent on destroying everything Wanda stands for. Superstar artist Russell Dauterman will continue to provide the series with breathtaking covers. Check out his cover for the debut issue now and pre-order Scarlet Witch #1 at your local comic book shop today. Scarlet Witch 1 is still written by Steve Orlando, featuring art by Jacopo Camagni, and once again, Russell Dauterman is returning to the covers on the series. When Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver was first announced for Marvel Comics, I was absolutely devastated. I was also really sad that Marvel happened to wind down their Scarlet Witch series so soon as well. So, once again, the fact that Orlando is returning to this book and continuing to craft some of the plot threads he's been working on with Wanda for so long is going to be fantastic here. Um, Frankly, I'm a little bit perplexed that Lorenzo Temeta is not joining the new Scarlet Witch ongoing. I feel like she did a really great job in the last run, as well as the Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch mini, but I wouldn't be surprised if she was head to just craft future interiors for an upcoming issue. I think it would also be really great if, just like the last run, we also got to see Russell Dauterman craft like an entire interior issue for like a really important and climactic issue of Scarlet Witch 2. I think that would be super, super cool. I am really excited about the future of Scarlet Witch. I really hope there's like a check in on characters like Polaris, and maybe we can introduce some more X-Men plot threads towards the Scarlet Witch series as well. We also need more tie in with whatever's going on with Magneto and Storm in the course of the core issue as well. Let's see here. A Pilgrim says, I wish Douterman did some of the interior art. He did Magical World and great scenes with Thor. A Pilgrim, I completely agree. I really hope, as I just stated, that before this second run with Steve Orlando and Scarlet Witch winds down, we're at least going to get one interior issue from Douterman. I absolutely love his work. He just lends so much like additional detail and characterization to like every single interior page he works on. That one issue with Scarlet Witch that he did had so many effects and so many cool battle scenes. I really like this character and all the art that creators like Kamagni lend to Scarlet Witch, and just super excited to check this one out. Okay, so it looks like we made it to the last storyline over on our stream today, but frankly, I am really excited to talk about this one. This is a brand new interview talking about the Teen Titans, or the Titans as they are now known, just after the Beast World comic book storyline has wrapped up from DC Comics. This one is coming in from Adventures in Poor Taste, written by Michael Guerrero. Tom Taylor talks about the Titans' future, inspiration, and threats on the horizon. The Titans have to prepare to crumble or shine. I really think DC's main Titans series has been so overlooked amidst their publishing line. Author Tom Taylor and artist Nicholas Scott led so much great detail and just so much honesty in the supporting cast between the relationships. I really think the way that Beast Boy and Raven have advanced their relationship throughout the core issues of the main Titans book has been wonderful. Also, watching Brother Blood in the Church of Eternity has been so much fun. There's been really strong characterization for Wally and Linda to complement the core Flash book. I just think there is so much goodwill that Tom Taylor has invested into the brand new Titan series. And I'm really interested to hear what kind of storylines he has in store for the future issues, especially as this is like the premier superhero team at DC Comics right now. So without further ado, let's see what Tom Taylor has in store for the future of the Titans ongoing series at DC. The Titans have been rather busy as of late. If they weren't trying to prevent the future death of Wally West, they've been battling the new Brother Blood and regularly saving the world. There currently is no Justice League in the DC universe, and the spotlight has been everything the Titans have worked for over the years. Of course, that means they can't seem to get out of the spotlight either. With the Titans' second or third arc set to begin this week with issue 8, it looks like AIPT caught up with Tom Taylor to gain insight to what readers can expect in the future for the team. It seems the Titans will still be booked and busy as their newest rival, Amanda Waller, clearly isn't done causing problems, not to mention Raven isn't Raven anymore. Altogether, this is a massive time in the Titans' history. Okay, and fair warning, it looks like this interview contains some spoilers for Titans issue 8. AIPT says, Hi Tom, this is Michael Guerrero. Thank you for taking the time to chat. To start, what are you most excited for readers to experience throughout this arc, be it big reveals or something else? Tom Taylor says, I can't say enough good things about incoming series artist Lucas Meyer. I'm sure people already are blown away by his work on Beast World, and he feels destined to be one of those great superhero artists. Lucas teaming with Nightwing colorist Adriano Lucas feels like a perfect match for a generous looking book. A gorgeous, not generous. But first, for the awesome art of Steven Segovia and Annette Kwok will kickstart this next adventure, they will sow the seeds of the Dark Winged Queen. Okay, also, really love some of the artwork from Lucas Meyer and Beast World. I want to echo some of Tom Taylor's sentiments. Steven Segovia, we saw illustrated that really nice cover of Quanon over on that Psylocke X-Men Blood Hunt issue. Also excited to see him illustrate some of the Titans characters as well. Man, check out that really cool splash page over with Trigon and Raven as well. AIPT says, what would you describe the tone for this new era of the Titans? Taylor says, this era, with the Justice League disbanded, sees the Titans stepping up to be the biggest heroes on the planet. That means being the biggest targets and having the biggest problems. The tone of this arc is one of the face of seemingly certain doom. Always love some of these Raven stories detailing her like twisted family history. I've actually even read the new Teen Titans run from George Perez and Marv Wolfman. Watching Tom Taylor be able to comment on that run with like really old Titans characters that are in like different positions across the DC universe is such an interesting entry point for these characters. I feel like he's been taking them really seriously in terms of their characterization too. What was your inspiration for making this current storyline? This story organically grew from everything we've been doing in the Titans to this point. I actually pitched two endings for Beast World, one safe and one not so safe. DC went with the not so safe ending. Good on you, DC. An ending that wouldn't see the loss of Garfield Logan, but the loss of Rachel Roth and her demonic side imprisoning and posing as Rachel. I would like to state that Brittany Holzer shares a lot of the blame for this one. We had a coffee and chat in New York that became the genesis of the Dark Winged Queen. What prompted you to vilify in the public's eye the Titans after they just entered the spotlight shy of a year ago? You know what? This is such a good question from AIPT. It seems like every comic book writer tries to turn the public disinterest against like the core superhero team without exploring what it looks like when the public actually adores the superheroes. I feel like in so many Avengers issues, we've gotten like the public just absolutely adoring these characters, and it just builds this kind of whimsical element towards the story. I think modern comic book writers sometimes implement too much conflict in their stories without fleshing out, some of those nicer and jovial elements. Okay, Tom Taylor says, whoa, Amanda Waller is the one vilifying the Titans, and that's kind of always been her thing. But truly, we're witnessing an evolution for Amanda Waller that is part of something big. I've been talking to writers like Mark Waid and Joshua Williamson about what comes next for Waller, and we've all been building to something truly dangerous for a long time. Okay, over with Tom Taylor, one thing kind of interesting to note here is really how he's commenting on the fact that really I think some of the public maybe haven't completely turned against the other Titans characters, and there's something really big brewing for Amanda Waller. It looks like this storyline is also going to be teased out over in that Absolute Power storyline coming from DC Comics as well. Comics in Tortillas, really good to see you in the chat here. Really good to have you over in our stream. Right now, we are talking about the Titans characters and just what the brand new Titans book is going to look like at DC Comics after the Beast World storyline winds down. As for the Titans, to step up in this role doesn't just mean facing dark magic and omega beams. It also means withstanding the slings and arrows that comes with trying to do good with such a high profile. We wanted the Titans to be challenged and not just physically. Will the Titans crumble under the pressure or become diamonds and shine? We'll have to find out together. Really solid page layout over on this page as well here for the issue. Okay, with Beast Boy alive and well after his apparent death in Titan's Beast World, how will things be different for him in the series? Taylor says Beast Boy has been through so much and things don't get easier for him here. This issue just had Garth join the Titans mid mission to help overcome a threat. Is it safe to assume that he is part of the official roster? Taylor says there's a lot of Tempest fans who want to see him be part of this team from the beginning. I believe in fan service. Watch the Seas. Love that watch the Seas comment from Taylor towards the end of that answer there. Also, really liked the very subtle element of animosity that Taylor set up with Garth, like declining the Teen Titans. Man, I keep calling them the Teen Titans, but the Titans' invitation to join the team as well. Trigon appears to have big plans for Raven. What can you say about their relationship after the shift, the Raven we know becoming trapped within the Soul Gem? Trigon knows something the rest of us don't. He knows the time has come for something more dangerous than anything seen before. As for their relationship, he's Trigon. Ask any of his kids, and they'll tell you he's not exactly Father of the Year material, but he clearly has a favorite now. All right, last question from Adventures in Poor Taste. Who do you think is the biggest threat on the horizon for the Titans? Raven, Trigon, or Amanda Waller? Tom Taylor answers very coyly, stating that all three of these characters are a threat. Waller is a threat to every hero in the DCU, but there is no doubt that the demonic side of Raven is going to be the greatest threat of all. If Raven becomes what Trigon believes she is destined to be, the entire universe is in danger. All right, so that is actually going to go ahead and wrap up our stream for the week here. Hope you enjoyed checking out all these brand new comic books. We really dove deep this weekend into not only Marvel Comics, but also DC today over on the stream. This Tuesday, we're going to be having a review of the latest issue of DC Comics Flash series. I really want to encourage you to check that one out. I think that book is just so phenomenal and just underappreciated by so many readers across the line here. This Wednesday, I believe we also have one of the final issues of Marvel Comics Gang War storyline. I'm so excited to talk about this one and to see how that book transitions into the milestone 50th issue. Well, I want to thank you so much for coming to check out our stream today, and we will be back to check out just whatever DC and Marvel have in store Tuesday and Wednesday for some DC Comics reviews, and Saturday and Sundays for some brand new streams. Thank you so much for coming to check out our stream this weekend, and I just hope you have a great day. Thank you.